Warning. This episode of the Karma Files, Paranormal and Unexplained, may not be suitable for young ears. Parental discretion is advised. Have you ever had the feeling that you're being watched? Have you ever heard disembodied voices coming from seemingly nowhere? Have you ever been touched by unseen hands? Have those that crossed over tried to communicate with you, trying to give you messages for their loved ones from the other side? Are you ever awakened at night by the sound of footsteps that stop right by your bedside? And have you seen objects move on their own accord? No? I have. This is Mark's nightmare. Mark is a fictitious name as he would like to remain anonymous. Location? Unknown. Mark doesn't know if he was just being paranoid, but he thinks someone has been watching his family at night. The latest event happened last night, and he didn't get much sleep. Mark and his wife recently purchased their first home after the birth of their daughter. Everything was as you would expect the first few months. Painting, decorating, renovating, basking in their newfound slice of the American dream. Unusual things started happening several months ago. One day, Mark was getting home after work when he passed by a strange truck 2 or 3 houses down from his. He said strange for a few reasons. He knew literally everyone in their small neighborhood, and he had never seen this truck or the person driving it before. There was no reason for through traffic to come down his street, and the truck was driving very slowly. Like, put it in drive, but don't press on the gas slowly. As Mark pulled in the driveway, the truck flipped a U-turn and came back towards his house. Getting out of his car, the truck crawled by, and the driver stared daggers at him as he passed, and then sped off. Mark doesn't like to judge based on appearances, and he likes to think that he doesn't scare easily. But something about the man's eyes gave Mark a bad feeling. Obviously, this was weird. He mentioned what happened to his wife, telling her they should be more mindful about security. When he told her the type of truck, his wife said, "That same truck drove by and the guy stared at me when I got home this afternoon. I thought he was just being creepy and checking me out." Mark tried to tease her a bit to lighten the mood, calling her cocky for assuming any guy driving by was checking her out. He didn't want to freak her out, but Mark was definitely freaked out. They saw the truck a few more times over the next couple of weeks, either driving by slowly or parked down the block and facing their yard. But one day, the truck stopped driving by, and they haven't seen it since. Mark sort of dismissed the whole thing and thought he was just being paranoid. But then other things started happening. In the past month or so, Mark and his wife have been hearing tapping on the windows at the front of their house at night. It happened 2 or 3 times to each of them separately, always around 10 or 11 p.m., and always a soft but distinct tap. It sounds like knocking with a single knuckle on the metal part of a screen door. The first time that they heard the tapping together was last weekend. They were in the front room playing with their daughter around 9:30 p.m., just about to settle her down for bed. Their front room has a large, almost floor-to-ceiling window running the length of the wall next to the front door, which faces the street. They were all sitting on the floor with their backs to the window, reading their daughter a book, when they heard it. Now, Mark's house is older. Creaks and cracks are not uncommon. But this sound was so distinctly intentional that they immediately looked at each other and bolted up out of the room. He had his wife and daughter lock themselves in a back room while he turned on all the lights and did a sweep around the outside of the house. Of course, he didn't see anything and was ready to dismiss the whole thing as more paranoia over something that probably had an innocent explanation. Until last night. Around 9:45 p.m., they heard their daughter making noise on the baby monitor. They waited a few minutes to see if she would settle down. But when it came clear she wouldn't, Mark got up to put her back to sleep. He went into his daughter's room and picked her up and went to sit in the rocking chair. There are 2 windows in his daughter's room. One window faces the street, and the other faces their neighbor's house. A garden bed planted with small shrubs wraps around the outside. He was sitting in the chair, getting his daughter settled down. He had a lamp on, so the room was softly lit. Once she fell asleep, he stood up to put her in her crib, when something caught his eye. There was a figure standing about a foot away from the window. They were staring at them. Mark didn't look long enough to see anything more than what happened to be a man in a light gray hoodie, standing a few feet away on the other side of the glass. Sprinting from the room, he brought his daughter back to his wife, leaving her there while telling his understandably confused wife to lock the door. After turning off all the lights inside the house and turning on all the lights outside, Mark began moving from room to room, peering out the windows into the darkness. He couldn't see anything out of the ordinary. Whoever it was must have taken off after seeing him notice them and made a quick exit. Obviously, Mark had some trouble sleeping after this. He spent hours checking security cameras and going from room to room, looking out windows into the night, hoping, but also not hoping, that he would see anything that could explain what happened. This morning, Mark went outside to the spot where the figure would have been standing. He thought, or maybe hoped, There was a plant or something that he mistook for a person. When he got to the spot, he realized the figure had to be standing exactly in a bare patch of ground, about 2 feet in diameter, directly in front of the window. Part of him is still hoping that he is just being paranoid. After all, the mind can play tricks on you in the dark, seeing things that aren't really there, especially when you're a sleep-deprived new parent. But with everything that's been happening, he can't shake the feeling that there was actually someone out there last night, watching them. As for who this person might be, Mark doesn't think it's related to the previous owners. They were a married couple with no children, who lived there for over 30 years. The husband died, and the wife needed to downsize, which is why she sold the house. Maybe it's someone who lost out in their bid for the place, but there was so much time between them buying the house and all this starting that it seems unlikely. But like Mark said, he's a new parent and likely sleep-deprived. And as Norman Bates from Psycho said, we all go a little mad sometimes. As always, take what you need for your daydreams and leave what you don't for your nightmares. Sweet dreams. At times, my life can seem like the scariest of nightmares. Believer or skeptic, I know the veil is thin between us and those on the other side. Do you experience the paranormal? If you don't, maybe you're the ghost. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Karma Files, Paranormal and Unexplained. We hope it was love at first fright. If you enjoyed being terrified by my stories, please haunt my DMs on Instagram or Facebook to let me know that you're dying for more. The links are in the show notes. Do you have a paranormal or unexplained story to tell? You can send me your stories to thekarmafiles@gmail.com. And if it gives me the chills, it might get featured on a future Karma Files episode. I would like to personally welcome you to my nightmares. I think you're going to like it here.